questions we had from the last. So based on the teachings that was given, so we know this, the teachings that was given to Arjuna. I mean, the teachings has not yet been given to Arjuna, but the state of Arjuna, what has happened is he is, we look through these shlokas, where it was mentioned that he starts to get anxiety, he starts to panic because he sees inauspiciousness, he sees negativity, and he starts feeling like, these are my own people, my own relatives, my own friends. So he starts feeling sympathy for those people. So this kind of sympathy which we discussed is a wrong sense of sympathy, because it, for a yogi, it is a sympathy with one's own senses, one's own habits, one's own tendencies, one's own ego. So as long we sympathize with ourselves, our negative things, we will not make any spiritual progress. So whichever path we take, whether it is the path of devotion, the path of yoga, path of jnana, we have to exercise some sense of self-control. We have to overcome our habits and stick with discipline. So this is necessary aspect of yoga teachings. The discipline in the path is very important. You want to get knowledge. Otherwise, what happens that if we don't have that discipline, that knowledge will not stay. That impulse, the sense and the emotions, the senses, the mind will take us away. At the first excuse, we will skip the classes, we will stop the sadhana. So this is happened. So now the point is that what happens when one starts having anxiety? Why does the anxiety come? Of course, psychologically, there's a lot of reasons, and there could be a lot of other reasons also. But at the what we call the metaphysical level, that the level of the yogic level, the understanding is that there are these past memories and impressions that one carries. So it doesn't match the actual situations. So some trigger in the present circumstance will trigger our past traumas or past memories. Hmm? And we respond accordingly. So Arjuna's situation was that his hands started shivering. He says, like, that seeing that people, his limbs fail, his mouth is spasmed, his body shivers, my hair stands on the end, his bow slips from his hands, the skin burns, and the mind is in confusion. So this is a state of anxiety, extreme anxiety or panic one faces. So we all have some experience of that, right? Like one experience is like if you're faced with danger in your life. So that is the physiological process, which is natural for everyone. Even a saint, has this thing where his body will kind of create that sensation and he will run from some fear. Like if he's sitting by the shore and the waves slash out, and he realizes, okay, the body will get harmed, and that impulse will make him run away. So those are healthy systems designed in the body. But then there are other systems which is not necessary, which we react to. So this is where, this is the question here for Arjuna. Arjuna's situation is not that he's experiencing a healthy kind of a conscious thing to run away from a snake. You see a snake and you move away. That is not the response here. He is imagining something. So it is a mind created anxiety and panic. So in the normal psychology, we say that, yeah, it is sometimes trauma and they try to look for it in this life alone. But from a yoga psychology, it may not be in this life. So sometimes some fears we experience, many people when they are born at the age of 6 or 8, they start having some fears. So where did that come from? This life, they've not experienced anything. So this is what the yoga psychology says, that there is a samskaras from previous lives. In fact, even that klesha which we care, that one of the kleshas called as abhinivesha, and this klesha is the fear of death, all of us have. And when we have this fear, what happens? We are naturally, whenever situations come, even though there is no actual danger, we just imagine sometimes. So they say one of the cons, the deep abiding fear in every human is the fear of death. So when we get spiritual understanding and when we have some spiritual experience, we don't have that fear of death as in psychological fear. Physiologically, we may be afraid of when something comes. But psychologically, we will not have that fear of dying. Like we are ready, we realize that our life is for short time only, for such certain time only. So there is this is the teachings that we are beyond this body, and of course that will come in the second chapter. Okay, so now there is a Mananam question. I hope all of you have looked at it. But I'll just read again. So, in our own life, we have to ask ourselves these questions. When we face some anxiety, some fear, sometimes, it is a fear, just like, you have to go to the hospital, there might be a fear, or you have to face somebody, some boss or someone, there might be fear. So, in such situations, like first thing is to bring awareness that if we are feeling any physical fear, if we start sweating, many times people have these reactions, right? Almost everybody, when they first start giving public talks, they said fear, they will start sweating in their palms and all that, right? So these are the natural kind of fears everybody has. But what is it caused by? It is caused by some mental imagination and fear, mental aspect of it. So the mind, it tries to influence the body. So how do I deal with the anxiety and fear in my life? So here, just at this point, when you go through fear, at that point, that knowledge is not effective. I mean, it is effective, but not as effective. Knowledge has to be built previously. When the knowledge is built previously, then when life circumstances come, then we will be able to deal with that. But at that situation, we need to have some methods. For many people, pranayama and all that is very effective to deal with that. And there are different kind of techniques. One of those techniques is, to as most of us know, is like, some of this basic anuloma viloma, those kind of pranayama which balances the energy. And then also chanting mantras, especially if you have diksha in some mantra. These are the times that those things will have a calming effect. Okay, so this is the this. So now let us look. We will look at the next set of mantras. So the couple of first things. We are now doing the first chapter. So there is a name for this chapter. What is the name for this chapter?
Arjuna Vishada Yoga.
Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So what does that mean, Arjuna Vishada Yoga? Somebody else maybe can say. Anyone?
Arjuna's dilemma.
Arjuna's dilemma. That is a good one. What else? Anything else? Any other way of
Despondency.
despondency? Arjuna's despondency or Arjuna's conflict, can say the conflict that Arjuna is going through. So what is the main conflict here? Arjuna, I mean, right now he has expressed only some part of it. What is his main conflict here expressed so far? Until now, what have we covered? What is the conflict? Anybody can answer.
his own family member or
हाँ
against him.
हाँ
No,
he's
he doesn't want to fight with his own kith and kins.
he doesn't want to fight with his own kith and kin. Correct, huh? And what else? Any other way of looking at it?
He was confused with the path of Dharma. He was
हाँ
confused. Adharma or Dharma.
correct, very good. Dharma, dharma. So that point we'll look at today. So the main one of the fundamental conflict that he's going to have is what is dharma? What is right for me in this situation? So even killing his relatives, the according to the Dharma Shastra, there are degrees of things you cannot do. One of the things, of course, is the one of the greatest papa we say, the sins are killing holy people, holy men. If you kill them, it is the greatest sin. And then there are other sins like killing cows and all that are also considered very strong. But also high among them is killing your own family members. That is considered a grave sin. So that conflict, killing his own people, his own relatives, teachers, and he will also mention guru. Guru means his acharya, dronacharya. That is one of the gravest sins. How can I do betray or kill? So okay. So all right. So now let us look at the first these mantras, and then we will go through. So now starting from 30, we did right last time. 31. So let us start from shloka number 31. So you can all repeat after me. Nimittani cha pashyami
निमित्तानि च
Shami.
पश्यामि
viparitani keshava
विपरीतानि
Viparitani
केशव
तानि
Keshava
केशव
na cha shreyonupashyami
न च
na cha
श्रेयो
Shreyo no
पश्यामि
Pashyami
atva swajana mahave
हत्वा
Hatva
Atva
Swajana
Swajanamahave.
Mahave
na kangshe vijayam krishna
न
न
काङ्क्षे
काङ्क्षे
विजयं
विजयं
कृष्ण
Nakangshe
कृष्ण
Krishna
na cha rajyam sukhani cha
न च
na
न
chara
च
राज्यं
राज्यं
Sukani
सुखानि
cha
च
सुखानि च
kinno rajena govinda
किं नो
Kinno
किन्नो
राज्येन
राज्येन
Rajena
राज्येन
Govinda
गोविन्द
गोविन्द
Kim bhogai jivitena cha neva. Sorry.
किं
Kim
Kim
bhogai
Bhogai
jivitena va.
Jivitena
किं भोगे
किं
Kim
भोगे
Bhogai
न वा
जीवितेन
Jivitena
वा
va
Esha marte kangshitanno.
येषामर्थे
येषामर्थे
Marte
काङ्क्षितन्नो
Kangshitanno
काङ्क्षितन्नो
Rajyam bhoga sukani cha.
राज्यं
राज्यं
Rajyam
भोगा
Bhoga
भोगस्तानि च
सुखानि
Sukani
च
cha
च
Ta imeva stitha yuddhe.
तैमेव
तैमेव
Nameva
स्थिता
Sita
युद्धे
Yuddhe
युद्धे
Pranam styaktva danani vacha.
Pranam
प्राणान्
प्राणान्
Sektva
त्यक्त्वा
त्यक्त्वा
Dhanani
धनानि
cha
धनानि
च
च
च
Acharya pitarah putras.
Acharya
आचार्य
पितरः
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 Putra
पुत्राः
पुत्रः
Tathaiva cha pitamahaha.
तथैव च
Tathaiva
तथैव
तथैव च
पितामहः
Pitamaha
पितामहः
पितामहः
Matula shvashurah pautrash.
Matulashva
मातुलः
Shruta
श्रुतः
Putrash
मातुलाश्रुतपुत्राश्च
पौत्रः
पौत्राश्च
Vyalash sambandhinastatha.
Shala
श्याला
Sambandhinasthatha
सम्बन्धिनस्तथा
सम्बन्धिनस्तथा
Etana hantumechhami.
एतान् हन्तुमिच्छामि
Nahantumichami
नाहन्तुमिच्छामि
Nathopi madhusudana.
यतोऽपि
Nathopi Madhusudana
मधुसूदनं
मधुसूदन
At api trailokyarajyasya
अपि
Api
अपि
Trailokya
त्रैलोक्यराजस्य
त्रैलोक्यराज्यस्य
त्रैलोक्यराजस्य
Eto kinno mahi krite
Eto
no mahi
mahikate
nihatya datarashtrana
nihatyadharashtrana
Rashtrana
ka pritisya janardana
Kapritisya
Janardana
janardana
papamevashrayedasman
Papamevashrayedasman
Mevashriyedasman
Hatvetanatatayiнаha
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 tasmanarha vayam hantum
Tasmannaharvayam hantum
Tantum
dhatarashtrан swabandhavan
Dhartarashtan
Swabandhavan
Swabandhavan
svajanam hi katam hatva
Swajanam
Swajanam hi katam
Hatva
Hatva
sukhina syama madhava
Sukhina
Sukhina
Syama
Syama
Madhava
Madhava
yadyapetena pashyanti
Yadhyapitena
Yadyapitena
Pasyanti
Pashyanti
lobopahata chetasaha
Lobo
Lobopahata
Chetasaha
Chetasaha
kulakshayakritam dosham
Kulakshaya
Kulakshayakritam
Kritam
dosham dosham
mitradrohe cha patakam
Mitradrohe
Mitradrohe
cha
patakam
patakam
katam nagneyamasmabih
Katham
Katam
Nagyayamasmabhi
Yamasmavi
Nagyayamasmabhi
papadasman nivartitum
Papadasman
Papadasman
Papadasmanivartitum
kulakshayakritam dosham
Kulakshaya Kritam
Kulakshayakritam
Dosham
dosham dosham
prapashyad prapashyadbhirjanardana
Prapashyadbhirjanardana
Papashyadbhirjanardana
kulakshaye pranashyanti
Kulashaye
Kulakshaye
Pranashyanti
Pranashyanti
kuladharma sanatanaha
Kuladharma
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 Sanatanaha
Sanatanaha
dharme nashte kulam kritsnam
Dharme
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 Nashte
Nashti
Kulam
Kulam
Kritsnam
Krishnam
adharmo bhi bhavatyuta
Adharmo
Adharmo Bhi Bhavatyuta
Bhavatyuta
adharma bhi bhavat krishna
Adharma
Adharma Bhi
Dharma
Bhigavat
Bhavat
Bhavat
Krishna
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 pradushyanti kulastriyaha
Pradushyanti
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 Kulastriyaha
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 trishu dushtasu varnesh vashneya
Trishu
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 Dushta
Dushtasu
Svashneya
Varsneya
jayate varna sankaraha
Jayate
Jayate
Varna
Jayate
Varna
Sankaraha
Varnasankaraha
Shankaraha
sankaro narakayaiva
Sankaro
Shankaro
Shankaro
Narakayeva
Narakayaiva
kulajnanam kulasya cha
Kulagnanam
Kulagnanam
Kulasya cha
Kulasya
Kulasya
Cha
patanti pitaro veshan
Patanti
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 Pitaro
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 Hesham
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 luptapindodaka kriyaha
Luptapindo
Luptapindo
Kriyaha
Luptapindodakakriyaha
Dakakriyaha
doshairetai kulajnanam
Doshe
Doshe
Doshirete
Kulagnanam
Kulagnanam
varnasankarakaihi
Varna
Varnasankarakarakaihi
Varnasankarakaihi
utsyadhyante jati dharma
Utsadante
Utsyadante
Jati
Jati
Dharma
Dharma
kuladharmasya shashwataha
Kuladharmasya
Kuladharmasya
Shashwataha
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 okay, we will look at these first. So now the same tone with which he started about what he is experiencing physically, meaning physically he was experiencing fear, panic, and he says, I cannot hold my bow, I cannot stand here. So from that point, he's going to now answer the rest of it. So maybe first what we can do is we can read a few shlokas. So maybe can someone just read from 31, 31 to about 35, someone can read.
O Keshava, I see only inauspicious omens and adverse signs. I do not perceive any benefit in killing my own kin in this battle. O Krishna, I desire neither victory nor kingdom, nor happiness or pleasures. O Govinda, of what use is the kingdom to us? What use are pleasures or even life itself? For whose sake we desire the kingdom, pleasures, and happiness? They are all standing here, prepared for battle, having renounced their lives and wealth. Teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers in law, grandsons, brothers in law, and other relatives. I do not desire to kill them, even if they attack me, O Madhusudana, Krishna. I have no desire to fight for the sake of the kingdom, even if all the happiness of the three worlds were offered to me. What joy would there be in killing the sons of Dhritarashtra?
Now we'll look at this first. So now here he's again, the point that he's bringing up here is that there is a immediate result, meaning what we call as a drishtapala, like you do an action and you get a result in the foreseeable future. So here he's talking about those kind of things, like what happens when these people whom I see right now, they are who are what will happen, meaning like that what use is the kingdom to us if my own people are not there, like it is like sometimes there are these people, there was some situations like where people here they went out of their village and they went to work somewhere, and they wanted to make a lot of money, and so they were staying away from their family, and when they came back some tragedy had happened here, water had flood happened, so their whole family died. So that kind of sense of thing that they started feeling like, why, what do I do now, where do I go, how do I go back? So that same kind of situation we see in our life, and we develop a vyapti meaning a certain kind of logic. I have seen things like this happen, so people who have been doing my work, my duty, so that my family and other people can live. But if they themselves can't enjoy, then what's the point? So that same argument he's putting in a different way. That what use is this kingdom? So I don't have any desire for victory, nor kingdom, nor happiness, nor pleasures, and I don't want anything. So until now, what had happened, as we know in the story, is Duryodhana had betrayed them. He had turned against them, and he was not willing to give them even a small plot of land. So they had assembled there because they realized that grave injustice that was done. And they had not just to them, but to their whole kula, their whole lineage. So this thing they had to atone. I mean, he wanted to make sure that they get that justice. But here, what happens is he starts giving this kind of fun thing, and this is also internal battle. So we have to here understand this is not just a that physical level of situation, a historical kind of a battle. From the Bhagavad Gita perspective, it is our own inner battle. So what is it that we start sympathizing with us when we call our own is not so much our family and friends. We sympathize with our own tendencies, with our own needs, with our own kind of a certain egoistic patterns. And what we say is like, even when we start getting a spiritual glimpse, like when whether we live in an ashram or we are in touch with the guru and all that. After a while, people start saying that, oh, I'm losing out. Why should I do seva? Why should I be there? I will be on my own. I will do these things on my own, and I will study. But if we don't have that strong connection, if we don't have something, our old samskaras are just waiting to drag us back. So this is where, like the spiritual sadhaka is tormented. Our spiritual life lived at our own comforts and our own kind of a certain sense will not give us that consistent progress and happiness. And soon we will go back to material desires, material seeking, because that is what we did for so many years. For so many lives we have done that. And Juna here is that having that inner kind of battle here going, where he starts seeing that, that these things I came to attain, like the kingdom, that happiness. So from a spiritual level, this is that inner kingdom, and this is that inner happiness that we are seeking. And we have to control those senses. We have to work with our higher calling, our higher desires, and we very easily give it up at the when the situations in our life are not that conducive. We are happy to go back to our old patterns, our old ways of life, and a lot of reasons are there for every person who leaves the path and goes back to a worldly kind of life, complete worldly life. You gives up your sadhana, give up your practices. There is always some justification, some reason. So if you really talk to the teacher and all, they'll say, yeah, your reason is legitimate. What can we do? But really speaking, if you're open, that teacher or that inner, your own conscious will tell you that you have to continue and make that effort. So this, what we think as killing our own things, we tend to say yes ourselves, right? Like I need a break. So it's okay as long as it's a short break. But when we give the break for too long, when we stop our practices, our classes, and all that for too long, if we start experiencing again that sense of we will not come back until we start seeing again that dukkha, that suffering, that kind of anxieties and all that. So in one way, it really speaking, like as a long time ago, there was a teacher with whom I was with. So somebody came and told him this, that, I can't continue. So I will do this. I will go there. And I mean, I'm not able to do meditation. I'm not able to attend classes and all that. And of course, those times online and all was not there. So he was saying, I will read on my own. I'll do Swadhyaya. Actually, Swadhyaya is very good. If we all have to do Swadhyaya, there's nothing wrong with that. So in fact, what we call by Swadhyaya, the word Swadhyaya is self-study. So that self-study is not just like contemplation on our own. For those who are wise, we contemplate along the lines of the Shastras and the Guru Vakya, what the teachers have taught us and the scriptures. From that context, we do Swadhyaya. From that context, we do self-study or self-introspection. Then it is very helpful. But if you have not heard enough, if you are not imbibed enough the teachings, then that Swadhyaya will be left to your own kind of interpretations. And see, even these days, Gita also gets interpreted so many times, so many ways. And these are interpretations by people who have not studied that properly many times, like not every time, many times. So the many kind of people interpret in a very loose way, right? So those interpretations are very based on tainted with worldly samskaras. So that is why we say, even when you study a scripture, who do you study with? What lineage or what thing, how you study? All that is very important. So anyway, coming back to this anecdote. So this sadhaka, he decided that he will, study on his own. So for a while, that guru was okay with that. He said, okay, you try it out. Because sometimes, unless people try it out, they will not be receptive to the higher teachings or the higher thing that the teacher had to say. So then after a while, he had picked up all his old habits. And he was also not able to absorb the teachings, because when you're tainted a lot with your sense-based living, like a worldly kind of living, or even rajasic living, seeking wealth, seeking being busy in the world, sometimes we can get too obsessed with that, right? We have to do our duties, but what is the priority? If that becomes a priority, then slowly what happens is our buddhi's ability, our intellect's ability to grasp the finer truths, they get weakened. So this is the battle, the manas and buddhi battle, is that when the manas, the mind is developing its reasoning and logic based on what it sees, only sense-based information it is gathering. And that has a logic, and a lot of science has come about based on that. So that is useful from a worldly perspective. But that logic is counter to the spiritual logic, meaning that spiritual ability to fine tune our perception and understanding and imbibe the higher teachings. These come not based on sense information. These come based on our calm perception of the intellect, or the shastras and the shastras. So the shastras and our calm perception will give us that unshakable higher knowledge. The sense-based information and logic, what we call as pratyaksha and anumana, they are not always conducive to spiritual logic. So that intellectual deduction based on that calm intuition and that scriptural knowledge, that is helpful, but intellectual deduction by yourself is not helpful. So then this man, when he came back, he was complaining to the teacher, somehow the texts are not good, this are not good. So then the teacher said, you have not studied properly, you're not able to practice properly. You're not studied the proper practice. You want to do yoga sometimes, We can only experiment so much without a teacher, without a teachings. You cannot progress even in the path of yoga, even if it is the most coolest techniques you get online or somewhere, or through books or something. Without a teacher, they will not fructify. So this is where, like the path has to come back to that proper study. And so this ultimately what happens for a sadhaka is this, we have to come back, and this is the only way out, so called. As they say that the spiritual thing is the only real game in town, as they say. Everything else is short games. This is the only game really, which will keep us occupied to the last. Okay, so now the next set of shlokas somebody can read, starting from 36, I think. Who's going to read?
O Janardana,
No,
what
okay,
pleasure.
here somebody else. Let's read.
Sorry.
You read. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, anybody else?
Shall I read, Swamiji? Or
It is.
somebody else?
Yeah.
Help. O Janardana, Krishna, what pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? By killing these wrongdoers, sin alone will befall on us. Therefore, we cannot destroy our own relatives, the sons of Dhritarashtra, our relatives. How can we be happy, O Madhava, by killing our own kin?
Indeed,
Even if these people whose minds are veiled by greed fail to recognize the wrongdoing in the destruction of the family and the sin of betraying friends. O Janardana, Krishna, how can we fail to recognize that we must avoid this sin? we are witnessing the fault of destroying the family. I'll read 40 also.
Yes, yeah, you can read
Ah.
40.
Yeah. When a family declines, its traditional practices are lost. When rituousness is lost, the entire family is overwhelmed by unrituousness.
Okay, so here again, now he's moving from what we call as the Drishtapala to a Drishtapala, which we will go through in other sense. So he's basically saying that, the names he uses for Madhusudana, what is called as Madhusudana, Janardana. So these are names of Krishna who killed demons. He killed and he established the order, the dharma, the order he established. So that names of Krishna came about because of that, that order that he has set about. So he's trying to tell Krishna that, you might have killed a lot of people who are bad people, but these are my relatives, so your names are justified basically because you killed those wrong people, those, although these are also harmful people, but these are my relatives, right? And then what is the repercussions of that? This is the point that he's making here. So that Kula Dharma, see, there is a Dharma at different levels are there. When we talk about Dharma, see, the whole of the world is going through a certain order, and everything is doing its Dharma for things to exist. So the opposing forces of nature in a way are there in a way, so they create a certain order also. So for example, we cannot say when fire, if it burns something, we cannot say that fire is doing adharma. That we cannot blame that the fire did a wrong thing because it is the dharma of fire to burn. So the fire is known for doing its dharma. So here also every small segments of society have their own dharma. Kula means a lineage, like a family lineage. They will have a certain dharma. They will follow certain things to sustain that kula, to sustain that lineage. So in not just in India, where every other countries also it is there, right? Every country have their family traditions, you can say. There's some family traditions they will follow for ages. So that in a spiritual way also, see all this dharma we say is mainly broken into varnashrama. In our old, according to Indians, there's varna and ashrama. Varna means caste. Of course, nowadays that caste thing is like, of course, many don't give that importance because it was abused in many generations ago. So people have tried to, downplay that. But there was some values in the caste system before because the caste system was based on certain segregation of law of maintaining the dharma. But of course, when greed and other factors came in, then the castes, each one started abusing that dharma. So, but there was a role assigned in the society for everybody. So a person of this caste would do this roles. So it was mostly based on their jobs, the duties they would do. So it's that way Brahmins were there to uphold these spiritual traditions because they would focus on that, their lives on that. So that was the original purpose, and they would uphold these rituals, worships, and all that. So that can be carried forth, and in that also there is something's given. And then the Varnashrama, Ashrama Dharma. Ashrama Dharma is at different stages. A Grihastha has certain Dharma to follow. A sannyasi has certain Dharma to follow. So sometimes especially for sannyasis, there are certain rules. If a sannyasi starts doing business and all that, we will say he's not following his dharma. And similarly, if a householder, like how, if he's not helping in sustaining the other ashramas, then we say he's not doing his dharma properly. So similarly, all these varnashramas are created for certain functions, but yet there is a spiritual purpose, spiritual dharma. So these are called as Vishesha Dharmas. Vishesha means specific dharmas. But then there is a Samanya Dharma, which we also sometimes call as Sanatana Dharma. So that Sanatana Dharma is the overall spiritual principles. For that, you don't need to be in any caste or any ashrama or in any religion also. It is the universal dharma that everybody is intuitively supposed to know and follow. Meaning those who are subtle, those who have a spiritual inclination, they are supposed to follow this Samanya Dharma or the Sanatana Dharma. But here what he's saying is that he's focusing on the Vishesha Dharma. So sometimes what happens is when we focus too much on the specific dharmas, we will let go of the universal over like the sustaining principle dharma. So this is where dharma can clash with dharma only. So what is dharma from a Vishesha point may not be dharma from a Samanya point. So what is the essence of Bhagavan's teachings here in Bhagavad Gita is this, that he is trying to establish this Sanatana Dharma again, which in a way gets lost time and again when like certain castes or certain ashramas or certain kulas dominate and they override it. So this spiritual principles of life, which is not limited to an individual, a sect, a religion, a community, a country, or a certain class of people, that universal dharma, that is the path to freedom and liberation. And that is the main focus of Bhagavad Gita. That is why we try to learn Bhagavad Gita, because in Bhagavad Gita, all the teachings which was given in the Vedas, the essence of that was extracted for people to follow. And so that they can attain that same essential thing what the Upanishads are pointing to. So the Vedas, as we know, had different portions to that. And that essential teachings of Vedas was getting lost. And to revive that essential teachings of Vedas, so all of the Vedas, if we cannot study, if we study Bhagavad Gita, that essence of it, we can extrapolate. So that point we will, Bhagavan will bring out. So here Arjuna's focus is on that Kula Dharma, which is getting lost. So when a family declines, what happens? Their traditions will go. Like if in your family, let's say some family, they on a specific day, you decided like, you will have something, some feast and all that, some tradition. Then what happens that family, when they start separating and all that, then that tradition is gone, right? So, but what happens is that is not the purpose of our life, to uphold those Kula Dharmas alone. It has its value, especially like, for example, we say our lineage in spiritual traditions. So there are certain value systems, and those value systems sometimes may seem against the higher spiritual thing, but they are essential to carry forth the teachings. So, so those kind of things are there. This is a big topic, but here I will leave it at this, and we can. There are um, some manana questions which we can look at. We will send that in the group. Okay. So any questions people have till then? Okay.
Swamiji, just to elaborate on the friends and family topic which Arjuna
Yeah.
touched. Sometimes we know that some people are toxic for us or are don't want the best for us, but we have to interact with them.
Right.
This is in daily life, but how do we tackle that? Like, should we keep our interaction to nominal thing, or how do we tackle that? Just a bit of briefing about that. Thank you.
Yeah, so these are our daily conflicts, again, here, many times what happens is we don't, we can't have a general answer, but every situation requires us to take a proper call, and in fact, I think it's there in the Mananam questions, am I too weak to say no to people? Huh? Meaning, when we weak meaning when we feel conflicted that this is an obligation I have to do. So that is where that higher values we have to weigh in. What do I gain by saying yes and losing out to these people versus saying yes to my spiritual values? So that over time, initially, we are all weak to say no because we are haven't found that spiritual grounding yet. So when that spiritual grounding is not strong, then our sense of dependency is on these friends and families. We feel dependent on them, and we feel that if we say no to them, then they will not support us. So when that spiritual understanding and strength gets stronger, then we are willing to say no to people in our lives who are not helpful spiritually and positively to us. And as you use the word toxic, see, that word itself is a very clear indication that they are not helpful for our mental and spiritual well-being. But why are we still working with these toxic people? Because we are inwardly not self-sufficient. We feel dependent on them, emotionally, financially, and all that. So a spiritual person is willing to let go of that kind of emotional, financial, social dependence on people, knowing that even if I don't have that, I have within me that inner strength. So until that stage, that transition, that from there each one has to take the call, so when we feel ready completely, we can completely say no. But that intermittent state, when we are not fully ready, we have to weigh ourselves how much of it I have to put up with.
That answers. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other questions?
Swamiji, I have a question.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So, Swamiji, when we talk about Kula Dharma, so it says every sort of sect maybe have their own traditions.
Yes.
So maybe one sect's dharma might be other sect's dharma. So
Yes.
it's very subjective that way. So that way.
Yeah, so that is what, this is the topic that is coming up now. What is one tradition's dharma may conflict with other bigger traditions dharma or another tradition's dharma. So when we come to the path, what happens is we are trying to attune ourselves more and more with the Samanya Dharma, the what we call as the Sanatana Dharma, the Samanya Dharma meaning the universal principles of life, spiritual life especially. So the universal principles of lives may require us to sometimes go against our own traditional values or family traditions value. So many times people have to let go of their, like even especially in our Indian things, many who are from Brahmin families, when they come to taking sannyasas and all that, they have to let go of a lot of their Brahmin family values that they have lived with all their life, meaning like certain yajnas, homas, and all that they have had to do. So there, what is happening? Their Kula Dharma and their Varna Dharma, their Ashrama Dharma, uh, that they have to let go to these higher principles and spiritual principles of life. So from that context, for that spiritual sadhaka, that Samanya Dharma, the higher spiritual Dharma is the Dharma. Everything else becomes adharma for that person. It is actually a hard call to answer from a worldly perspective. But once we come to the spiritual thing, this is how, we have to start looking at it. What is that higher values that I want to live life by? Not, I don't have that. See that where this is what we say when you are answering the higher call of life, then the lesser responsibilities of life you can easily let go. So the lesser dharmas you are supposed to follow, you can let go, but you have to be true to that higher self. So that is sometimes where we have to honestly introspect. Am I doing it out of escapism, or am I really true to that call? Okay, huh? So we will leave it at this. And just after the prayer, just a couple of quick notes, and we can stay for a minute. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, Om Namah